Romans 12:2, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. There is a quiet battle within every human heart, the struggle between what the world makes of us and what God meant us to be. Every person feels this pull, the desire to belong and the ache to become. It's the tension between confirmation and transformation, between forgetting and remembering. Paul, in his letter to the Romans, wasn't simply warning against bad behavior or moral decay. He was teaching a deep truth about identity, that the greatest loss is not when you sin, but when you forget who you are. He writes, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. In other words, don't let the world ferment you. Let God refine you. To understand this, imagine something simple, something that has been part of human life for thousands of years, a grape. A grape is born full of life, round, juicy, sweet, and full of light. It's whole, it's pure, it's complete. But what happens to that grape can tell three different stories about what happens to us. The grape can ferment and become yayin, wine. It can boil and thicken and become dabash, honey or syrup. Or it can remain tirosh, fresh, simple, and new. Each of these represents a stage of the human soul. Yayin is the soul that conforms. Dabash is the soul that is refined and transfigured. And tirosh is the pure potential, the beginning of the journey. When grapes are left to themselves, in barrels in darkness, under the influence of their environment, they begin to ferment. The sweetness inside them starts to break down. The sugar that once gave life begins to turn into something different, heavier, intoxicating, dulling. That's what happens when a soul conforms to the world. Confirmation is not just about doing what everyone else does. It's about absorbing the environment until you lose your original taste, until you start sounding, thinking, and living like everything around you. In the ancient world, wine was both loved and dangerous. It was comfort in a cup, something that could relax the heart but also cloud the mind. Spiritually, yayin represents that comfort that comes from blending in, being acceptable, agreeable, and undisturbed. It is the old wine Jesus spoke of when he said, "No one after drinking old wine wants the new, for they say, the old is better." Luke 5:39. Old wine is familiar, it's predictable, it's easy to love because it asks nothing from you. It doesn't stretch you or change you. It just lets you be as you are. But that's the danger. When you live in confirmation, you may look fine on the outside, cultured, aged, stable, but inside the sweetness has faded. The grape no longer tastes like the garden, it tastes like the barrel. It has lost its origin to the comfort of the crowd. That is the tragedy of yayin. It feels deep but leaves you dull. It tastes mature but leads to sleep. It numbs the soul while pretending to nourish it. Then there is transformation, which is very different from fermentation. Transformation doesn't happen in darkness. It happens in light. It's not slow decay. It's deliberate renewal. It's not influenced by the world around. It's ignited by the fire within. When Paul says, "Be transformed by the renewing of your mind," he uses a Greek word, metamorpho, the same root as metamorphosis. It means to go beyond your current shape, to change from the inside out. It is not the grape losing itself, it is the grape rediscovering itself. Transformation is what happens when you allow the truth to challenge the patterns of your thinking. It's the process of replacing lies with light, replacing old instincts with new insight. It's when you stop copying the world and start reflecting the word. But transformation is not always gentle. It is a kind of fire, not the fire that destroys, but the one that refines. It burns away what is false, unnecessary, and artificial until only what is true remains. If fermentation is what happens when you forget your essence, transformation is what happens when you remember it. It's the moment the mind wakes up and says, "Wait, I was never meant to taste like this world." That's the renewing Paul talks about, remembering the original flavor God gave you. Transformation is how you return to that sweetness. In the scriptures, the word dabash usually means honey, but often it referred to grape honey, a thick syrup made by boiling grape juice. Unlike fermentation, this process doesn't happen in silence or darkness. It happens in light over flame. The fire doesn't corrupt the grape, it purifies it. The boiling doesn't destroy sweetness, it concentrates it. When you boil grape juice, the excess water, the unnecessary, evaporates, leaving behind a richer, deeper, more lasting sweetness. That is dabash. That is transfiguration. Transfiguration is what happens when transformation has gone all the way through. When the fire that renewed you now begins to reveal you. It's what happened to Jesus on the mountain. He was transfigured before them. His face shone like the sun. Matthew 17:2. He wasn't changed into someone new. He simply allowed what was divine within him to be seen. That's what happens when you remember who you truly are in God. You stop trying to fit in and you start to shine out. You stop being molded by what's around you and you start to reflect the glory that was always within you. Dabash is the soul refined, not numb like wine, but alive like honey. It is sweetness preserved through heat, essence revealed through pressure, purity proven through fire. It's no wonder Scripture often pairs honey with wisdom. Eat honey, my son, for it is good. So is wisdom to your soul. Proverbs 24:13-14. Because wisdom is not learned, it's remembered. It is the flavor of truth once it has been purified. Every grape begins with sweetness, but time and environment will test that sweetness. It can either decay through conformity or deepen through refinement. Fermentation is passive. It happens when you do nothing. Refinement is active. It happens when you surrender. Fermentation requires no discipline, only neglect. Refinement requires surrender to the right fire, one that burns with purpose. That's why God's process always involves light and heat. He refines to reveal. He transforms to transfigure. The world ferments through imitation, but heaven refines through revelation. Do not be conformed to this world. Do not let the world's barrels define your flavor. Do not allow pain, popularity, or fear to rewrite your purpose. But be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Let the truth renew your taste for holiness. Let the Spirit bring you back to your sweetness. Let God's fire do what fermentation never can. Make you whole again. You were never meant to taste like the world. You were meant to taste like heaven. When you remember who you are, when you let the Spirit boil away what the world has added, your life becomes like dabash, not dulled by age, but deepened by grace, not blended into the crowd, but burning with clarity, not changed into something new, but revealed as something true. In the end, transfigure. Remembering who you are is about this. You don't need to become someone else. You need to become yourself again. The self that was designed before the world began fermenting you with fear and imitation. Yayin forgets. Dabash remembers. Yayin numbs. Dabash awakens. Yayin conforms. Dabash reveals. So let the fire of transformation renew your mind. Let it burn away the false flavors of conformity, until the real sweetness, the one God placed inside you, rises again. Because when you finally remember who you are, you don't just change, you shine, transfigure. Remember who you are. The grape was never meant to lose its sweetness, and neither were you.